I thought Christy already handled it.
And we are live. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
You're too funny.
We have a
all this time I thought we were live, man. I'm like talking like we were live. And then it's like, we guys didn't hit the Lord's Wednesday live. And I'm like, what?
But we were.
We were live between the four of us.
Yeah, we are. What the heck?
Right. Right. You know, I mean, the conversation gets away from us.
It did too.
So,
all right, now we're gonna have to go over all that again.
We are. We absolutely are. Rewind. Okay, there we go.
Where is Lewis? That's what you guys start out with.
Right. And there he is. There he is
All
up
right.
there. We have a full crew tonight.
Yes, it's here.
Yeah.
Hey, Mark.
We have a full crew. We have the wonderful Lady in the Woods.
Woo! Hi, everybody.
Down there.
Yeah. Right there. Right there. She's right there. Hi, Dee. How are you?
I'm blessed. How are you?
Oh, well.
Blessed too.
It could be worse. You know?
There's a question mark. It's like, am I blessed?
So, before we get started, you want to say hi to people in the chat?
Yes. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Let's see who we got.
We got Blue Eyed Northern.
I got a haircut, everybody.
The Lewis
Turn
got
your
a
head.
haircut.
Just in case you guys didn't notice, I got a haircut. I got a ponytail in the back. I left that because I got to look like I have a tail. You know?
Yeah.
Oh, my.
We have our wonderful moderator, Squatchaholic. So everybody be good because she's got the steel-toed boots on tonight.
Uh-oh. Good
I don't
night.
have to
Right.
be good.
No, you don't.
At least they're not the pointy cowboy boots. Whew. Those are worse. Uh-huh.
Woo-wee. Yeah, that would hurt. Well, we got Chris Jarvis. How you doing? We got Sharon Guy, as always. You can always count on her. With Typical
All right.
Watch. How you doing, buddy?
Thanks for
Glad to see you all here. Johnny Half. Who else we got here?
Sawdust Beast in the house.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Carol and Bill King. Always glad to have them here. Mark Narducci. How you doing, buddy? How you doing?
You got it, Carol and Bill. We'll be praying.
Right. That's right. Always looking out for our fellow friends.
That's right.
Yeah.
Always.
That's
So-
what it is.
Miss Lady in the Woods. This is a question we ask all of our guests. It is interesting to hear. It's interesting to hear, you know, what got you into the topic of Bigfoot. Was it an experience? Was it a movie like Christy? Was it curiosity?
I thought you used to watch my live chats.
I did.
Not everybody here, I don't think, has. I don't think.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I know I like them. I like them a lot.
Well, thank you. I got into this by taking my husband and I and taking our grandkids to a Honabi Bigfoot festival. And at the end of the evening, they usually sit down and they do people tell their stories, campfire stories. And I was listening to these people, and my husband and I were looking at each other, we're kind of rolling our eyes, yeah, okay, that's funny. I didn't believe in anything. I never saw, I didn't even see the Boggy Creek. I hadn't even watched any of that stuff. I mean,
That was
I don't know what
Christy got into it when she was a kid. A movie got her into it.
Well, I'd never seen it. I had never seen that movie. So, I've never been much for TV anyway. But So we went, and then I met a gentleman there, and him and I asked him a couple of questions, and he said, "You don't believe they exist?" I said, "Heck no." And I said, "I'm not going to tell you that I'm a kid that spent all my years in the woods, grew up there, lived out there, hunted all my life, blah, blah, blah." I said, "I'm just, as a teenager, spent a lot of time in the woods, and I've never spent much time at home, and I just never heard of it, so it was news to me, and I didn't believe him." So he says, "Well, I'll tell you what." He says, "We have an expedition coming up. Why don't you come?" And so I talked to my husband. He said, "Go ahead and go if you want." So I took a friend of mine, and her and I went, and we met everybody there. But everybody there had experiences. So, her and I were just non-believers. And the first night that we were there was not a big deal. I mean, except for they took me up on the side of this mountain and left me up there in the dark by myself. And,
What the heck?
I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of the dark, but he said, "Watch the tree line, because if they're going to come down, that's where they're going to come from." So as I'm sitting there in the dark, intently watching the forest line, I hear noise behind me. Well, I don't think it's a Sasquatch. I think it's a bear or cougar or something along those
A
lines.
deer.
But yeah, something, anything. I mean, it could have been a raccoon, for crying out loud, but it ended up
Something
being
natural.
somebody else that had been dropped up there. Yeah, but it had been somebody that had been dropped up there earlier. And he asked me if I wanted to try his military grade night vision goggles, which was a mistake because it ruined my night vision. But I don't know. We heard things. We kind of saw stuff, and whatever. I really didn't think much of it. And then there was this girl that had joined the group, and she was staying in a cabin by herself, and she didn't really want to stay there by herself. So she had asked if, we had told her she could join us. And that night, she's actually allergic to smoke, and I smoke cigarettes. So I went to go outside to have a cigarette because, I'm not going to smoke around someone that doesn't smoke. But anyway, I was going to go outside, and her and Sandy were both sound asleep when I'd first gotten up. And it was something like, I don't know, maybe 2:00 in the morning. I don't know. But all of a sudden I hear her, she's not breathing, her rhythmic breathing like she was doing before. So I knew she was awake. And I said, "What are you doing up?" She goes, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'll have a cigarette." So she gets up and comes to the door, and it's an A-frame. And they had a tornado that year, and they had piled up all the debris in the middle of probably where most of the people camp during the Honabi conferences, around that area. And I mean, this was huge. I mean, they were probably about 15, 16 foot high. I mean, we're talking trees that were knocked down, all put together. But I go outside, and she said, "Please don't go outside." And I said, "Why?" And she goes, "Can't you hear all that out there?" And I said, "Oh, those are just those people. It's not a big deal." And she goes, "No." And I said, "You tell me these things are real?" She goes, "I promise you they're real." So I said, "Well, I'm just going to go outside. I'll be back in a minute." And she puts her hand on the door, and she asked me not to go outside. I was like, "What?" And I look at her, and she goes, "Look." And she points to on the opposite side of that big old pile, and I see a set of eyes. Now, I'd seen shadows running back and forth, but I really thought it was just the people that were there. I didn't think nothing of it. And it wasn't. And then when I saw the eyes, I was like, "Oh my gosh." So she said, "Go in the bathroom and have a cigarette." And the next day I got up, we went outside. I went to go get a cup of coffee, because you don't talk to me without my coffee first thing in the morning. And when I got out there, I walked over to behind the pile, and I was talking to one of the guys that were there. And just for the heck of it, I looked at the A-frame where we were staying. Oh my gosh. All I could see was the tip of the A-frame. Do you realize how big that thing had to be? And when I looked on the ground, I kept seeing all these footprints, and I started calling people over there. I was like, "Look at the size of these prints." And they're just shaking their heads saying, "Oh, these guys are here all the time." And I said, "You people are crazy. You people are out of your mind." And I really was trying to figure out a way how they could have constructed all this,
It's all
I
scam.
figured they've been doing it for years. I figured it had to be, it had to be all hoaxed. And, but like I said, during the night when we sat there, we heard howls. And one thing I will tell you is Troy, the guy that was hosting it, he said he was going to bed early that night, And when he went to turn around to leave, all of us girls decided to stay up and let the guys go to bed. But we were sitting by the campfire, and he got up to go leave, and we actually saw it. Something ran between the building and the tree where he was staying, and all of a sudden, thud, and a great big, big, huge piece of cut wood hit the side of his trailer. And he just stood there. He looked at me, and I was like, okay, so which one of your buddies are back there throwing stuff? This guy spent most of his time shaking his head at me because he thought I was crazy. But I was thinking he was crazy. But I don't know. Like I said, the first time wasn't really, it was the last night that we were there. And let me tell you, the only reason that I have to say that I thought twice about it was because nothing could have imitated the sounds that I heard that night. Now, he had taken us on the ATVs down to an area that he took most people down into. Of course, we started a big fire because it was like 40 degrees outside. And I guess that's when they're the most active in that area and the less irritated. I think the heat irritates them. And he's telling us, first he showed me up on the side of the mountain or hill, I call it. And he says, if you see lights up there or you think they're eyes, they're actually the lights for the cabins. He goes, a lot of people think it's eye shine. And I said, okay, so I'm not interested in any of that stuff. I'm just building the fire because I'm cold. And they're walking around, they're getting their stuff ready for their audios and their videos that they're going to be doing when the rest of the gang gets down there. And so now we separate into two different groups. One's on one side by the river, and we're on the other side, me and just these two guys. Troy and another guy, Tim, I think it was. Anyway, so I'm getting up all this wood and putting it on the fire, and I kind of hear a stick break little. And like I said, I have really good hearing. And so I look up and I see eyes, and they're blinking. And so I call Troy over and I say, you might want to come look at this. He goes, no, remember I told you, that's a cabin. I said, well, do cabin eyes blink? And he said, no. And he come walking over. He goes, oh, crap, they're here. And I was like, what?
They're here.
What? What do you mean they're here? I don't want to hear that. And then, so he calls the other team, and he's telling the other team on the other side that we now have activity there. So honestly, in my head, I'm saying, they got this all planned out. There's piece by piece. There's every little aspect of, they know where everything is in the woods. They can step on a button or something and turn on lights. I figured they had it all planned out. Well, the only thing they could not plan out was as soon as he called the other people and told them that we had activity, they said they were going to come over. And then all of a sudden oh my gosh. And to this day, I can feel it in my chest. It sounded like someone opened up, I don't know, elephants or horses. It sounded like 1,000 of them coming down off the hill. And I said, what the heck is that? And they said, they're coming. And I darted between these two guys. I was in between these two guys, closing my eyes, waiting for something to come out and attack us. I mean, it was freaky. It was the freakiest thing I've never heard that in my life. I mean, the ground rumbled. I mean, it did. The ground shook. And nothing. Then silence. How can something that makes that much noise just go silent? That they could not fake. So that was my first weekend there. That's the first time I actually wanted to come back and learn more, because that's me. If you get me started on something, I got to find out what it is. I'm sorry.
That'd be scary.
If you're going to go for it, go for it. You're right.
Yeah, if you're going to do it. And I'm not, you can set me out in the woods by myself. I'm not afraid. It's kind of stupid not to be if there's predators out there, but you can kind of distinguish which one's which if you've been out there long enough. And I told him I was going to be armed, and he said, do what you want. And so, of course, the next time we had met up, I had to do some shooting for him so he knew whether he could trust me with a gun. So after about 10 minutes of shooting, he decided I was fine. So he invited me to the next one, and the next one that I went to is the one where I actually saw my first Sasquatch. And it was probably about 60 to 70 feet away. It wasn't that far away. And I didn't see it first. A kid saw it. and I ran down there because he goes, "Oh my gosh, there is one." So being little kids, I love kids. So I would rather spend time with the kids than the adults anyway. But I went over to the kid and I got down to his level and I looked at what he was looking at. And sure enough, I had just enough time to see one dart behind a tree. Well, I guess for bushes, not really trees. And then the second one took 1.5 steps and disappeared back behind the same bush, which made no sense to me because when we went back later, Troy measured at that tree and he had a duck underneath that tree, which was almost 10 foot. And what slayed me the most about that was 2 things. And this is before I had learned anything about Sasquatch. Number one, it looked like it almost was going to tip over. The top part of its head looked like it was going to, like it could actually fall forward. It didn't match, the body didn't match the head. It was all one piece and it looked like it was leaning forward. That was number one. But number two, it didn't walk like we did. It looked like it was on a skateboard. There was no movement. There was no up and down movement. So I couldn't figure out how they could have hoaxed that unless they had a box or something on a skateboard. And then, it just didn't make any sense to me. But this kid had apparently seen them multiple times in his life. And he was excited, but he wasn't scared. And it just kind of freaked me out. I went back to the cabin and I think I was a little bit of a shock because I couldn't figure out how they could have hoaxed that one. Not that close to us. Further away, maybe, 100 yards or something I could see them doing, but not that close to where we could have gotten to them before they could have hidden what they were doing.
Wow.
It just didn't make any sense. So then after that, we bought property up in Oklahoma. And Sandy had we had bought it together. We were going to buy it together. And I started doing my videos from up there. And I had a lot of activity. That's where I met Boo. In the beginning, I didn't call him Boo. I just called him the brat because he'd throw things, and he'd scare me all the time. He'd come up behind you and just crack a stick. We're talking 5 feet behind you.
Oh my.
You turn around, there ain't nobody there. And you could hear the breathing, you could hear the noise. And I was like, you know what? You're bad. You're rotten.
You're bad.
So
I've had that happen so many times. You hear these heavy footfalls coming behind you, and you get that chill up your spine, like someone's running up behind you. You turn around, and there's nothing there.
It was crazy, and they started coming to the window. They started making all kinds of noise. They started, I had a wonderful 3 years up there on that property. I learned so much about them being up there. And that's what I said. I was listening to, I think her name was Janice the other day. Janice Carter. And when she started
Janice
talking,
Carter story about Fox.
I listened to, and I started listening to her and it made me really laugh hard because she said they're like teenagers. I said, I've been saying that since day one. Of course, right. I got ridiculed and I stopped making the comments because I got ridiculed by somebody that we all know very well. When I had asked her a question, I had said, I'd love to meet up and compare notes. And this person said, you think you have more experience than she does? And I was like, I didn't say that. I just wanted to compare notes. And so they told me off, basically told me that I had no knowledge compared to her. And I said, I'm not, none of us are superstars for crying out loud. I just want to learn if she's truly been with these things for that long, maybe some of the stuff she's going through will make more sense to me. That's all.
Yep. Right.
Exactly. In case anybody out there doesn't know who Janice Carter is, Janice Carter lived, I forget what state, but her father started befriending a Bigfoot on their property that he called Fox. And she remembers growing up, sitting at the dinner table, they would finish up their dinner, and her dad would scrape up all the leftovers and everything and say, okay, I'm going to go out to the barn and feed my fox. And she thought he just had a fox. No, he was taking food out to the Bigfoot. And he passed away, and she took over his role and befriended Fox. And during bad weather, Fox would take shelter in their basement. And it's you can go find it on YouTube. It's called 50 Years with Bigfoot, and the Janice Carter story. Very cool. I think it's like 7 parts or something like that, 7 or 8 parts. I think they're an hour long. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. So, all right, Dee, I am done babbling.
I think she's busy right now.
just in case people didn't know who Janice Carter was. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I was just reading the comments. That's all. Just seeing who all was here. But I'm part of No Bro now. But that's a good idea. You should get Troy from No Bro on there.
Well,
he's
somebody
really
send him a
knowledgeable.
message. Somebody send him a message.
I will.
And tell him.
I'll do it. I can call him and ask him, but I know he's really busy because now he's the head of the Texas Emergency Management. So I know he's really, really busy. But I'll ask him if he's willing to come on. But I'll tell you what, that guy is a plethora of knowledge. He taught me a whole bunch in the beginning, a whole bunch. And he's the one that gave me my first laughing like crazy, rolling on the floor when he told me that he got bluff charged when he was out going to the bathroom. And I never laughed so hard in my life the way you should seen the look on his face when he told me that story. I mean, I could picture it because Boo used to do that stuff all the time. I mean, he loved bluff charging people. He just thought that was the funniest thing ever. But to hear this guy Troy say it, I couldn't help myself. I was cracking up. He says, "You find humor in that?" I said, "Heck yeah."
And he did too.
They weren't gonna.
The big
the sassy
charging went behind the bush and was rolling on the ground laughing because they're total complete pranksters, and they're just it's
some
funny.
of them truly are. Yeah, some of them truly are pranksters. Let me tell you.
That's right.
Well, hello, everybody in chat. I'm sorry I missed you guys. I wasn't
There's
really
48
looking.
here.
That's why I went back. Yeah.
So now you are a firm, absolute 100% believer in them.
Not a believer anymore. I am a knower.
A knower.
Yeah.
Excuse me. A knower.
Yeah. It's okay to
clarify
believe. It's okay to believe because, there's too many people out there when you think about it that have their encounters or their stories or their history or whatever. But face-to-face encounters are just mind-blowing. And I don't even know who I am anymore. I've really had a heart-to-heart with the Lord over this because I wasn't scared at the time that it happened, but after the fact, I was talking to Carrie at Mark's and I got tears in my eyes and so did he. And he goes, "Are you doing that, lately?" And I said, "Yeah, me. I don't know why." And he goes, "I'm doing the same thing." And I said, "I'm telling you, it changes your whole paradigm. It changes your whole life. Seeing one actually." What is that? What is that?
My neighbor's watching a football game, apparently.
How cute is that?
Apparently, his team got a touchdown. That's coming from me. That's over there. So,
It sounds like a suburban Bigfoot.
I know. I was like,
yeah, well, he's yelling, touchdown. So that's why you see me going on. That's why you see me going on mute a lot. So, yeah, that and the planes.
I didn't see that. Well, I'm really excited. I know I have a lot of activity here. I seem to have activity no matter where I go, and I wish I could say, in a way, that it's just wishful thinking, but I don't go by tree structures. I don't go by smells. I don't go by that kind of stuff. I actually feel when they're around. And that's number one. But number two, if I go someplace that I haven't been before, sometimes if they're close by, they'll make a noise and I'll pick up that noise in an instant because that's unmistakable. I mean, I haven't been to like I haven't been like to Wisconsin or Ohio and done anything up there because I think they're pretty different in different places. Look at the difference just between Arkansas, the other place in Oklahoma, well, the other two places in Oklahoma, and this one.
Right.
You know, I mean,
Right.
the ones here might be the ones from Mark's place, but they do a lot of whistling here, which they didn't do at the other places.
And you were very close to East Texas right now, right?
Yeah, I'm really close to the border now, so it wouldn't take me nothing to get down there.
For anybody who doesn't know, East Texas is a hotbed of sightings.
Oh yeah,
it has been for a long time.
So is Southeast Oklahoma. I mean, this is a hotbed, and I am a hop, skip, and a jump from Cloudy, which is where some DM sightings have been. I mean, literally, I'm just a few miles from it. That's not good.
That's not good.
No, I'm not happy about that one.
It's not good if they're messing with you. It's fine if they stay away from you.
Yeah, well,
you know,
I do a lot of praying out here, and I do a lot of praying out loud. So I'm hoping I can keep at bay anything that doesn't belong here.
So you've been through a lot in the last couple of years. You moved from Arkansas and you bought property in Oklahoma, which turned out to be a flood basin. And
that sucks.
You basically lost everything overnight and almost died, had to be rescued.
Hey.
What did the real estate agent say about that? Because I know you were trying to get a hold of him and he wasn't returning your calls.
He still says that, even though we gave him, in fact, I gave him a present when we got to the property, when we actually moved onto the property and we were getting ready to sign all the paperwork. I handed him a piece of paper that showed him that I now knew that he knew from before he sold us the place that he knew that whole area flooded. I showed him some maps and it came from the Department of Agriculture that actually sent him it had his email address on it that told him that whole area was a flood zone.
So it was complete misrepresentation.
Yeah, so he knew it before he put us there. And so I just said, shame on you, and walked away.
Wow.
So did he make good on it and take
He
care
thinks
of you?
he did. He thinks he did. He puts on
You guys lost your trailer and everything, right?
Yeah, he said, well, just consider me the bank. I'm not responsible for your loss. He goes, you wouldn't go to the bank if you lost your truck in a flood. And I said, someday you're going to have to answer for this kind of stuff. But I lost my 2017
property.
Yeah, and no attorney around here would take it. None, not one. And so we lost our 2017 truck, which was my baby. We lost our RV. We lost our tractor. I lost so much in that flood that I lost so much. But the most important part was I didn't lose my husband and I didn't lose my dogs. I did lose all my chickens except for one. One survived. That's right. That's right, Christy. It's a God thing. But it's okay. We'll rebuild. And we had 3 days worth of solid rain here. And I posted a screenshot of it on my channel, giggling because that was the extent of the flood. It wasn't funny, but
you've obviously moved from that property to a new property in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Closer to East Texas.
Yes.
And you have activity on that property.
Have a lot of activity on this property. In fact, I was shocked. It didn't take but the first day before I knew they were here.
Wow.
And when you pull in fact, I had a visitor, a girl that's on my channel, actually came here to visit, and she said, "Did you notice the rock sets at the water line over there?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Do you think they did that?" And I said, I don't know, but I'm not saying a word because there's a rock stack on the little water bridge that
I
has
didn't
8
know
rocks.
it.
Yeah, 8
Yeah.
rocks.
Well, it sounds
Wow.
like there might be 8 individuals there.
Yeah, the two that come to the window, there's one bigger, one smaller, and the footprints match that. The footprints I showed before my internet went down and my computer just went on fry. But people that were on my live chat that day saw the prints. I put my foot up next to it, and it was probably a good 19-inch foot.
Wow.
The one next
Wow.
to it was probably about 6.5, 7, maybe 8 inches long, maybe.
Man.
So there's a
So-
theory that if it's 19 inches long, it's basically about 60% of that. And that would tell you the height. You're looking at somewhere probably between 8 and 9 feet tall for that individual.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
the 6 or 7 inch one sounds like it is a baby and could only
it's a
be
baby.
about 4 feet tall, 3.5, 4 feet tall.
Yeah, and I think the baby is the one that's irritating the puppies because Tank and Bella are inside. Bella's too old to be out there, and Tank just wants to be with Bella, so I have to let him in. So I leave the pups out at night, and something's playing with the pups because they are running back and forth, back and forth. They're going crazy out there. And when my husband goes out and shines the flashlight, the dogs just sit still and stare.
Like what? We
All of a
weren't
sudden-
doing nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And they're looking in the same place every single time, which is right at that tree line. I mean, they just sit there and stare. Their tail's wagging. So what are they wagging their tail at?
Wagging at their friends that live in the forest.
Yeah. And I've had one come to the window. In fact, I do have it. And some people here have heard the audio that I posted, but you could actually hear one walk up. You could hear him walking on the rock. And first I thought it was my husband because it's a double door shed. It's a tiny shed, but it was a double door and one side stays locked and the other side can open. So he used to open it up. You'd hear him open the door. You could hear him walk outside, do his business outside, then hear him come back in and shut the door. I mean, that was every single night, many times. This night, I thought it was my husband when I was re-listening to the recording. But right when this thing started crunching, like it was chewing on something, you could hear the button for my heater, my little stand-up heater, because it goes beep, 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 beep when you push it up. Well, I was in bed. Denny was pushing the heater up, which means Denny was inside, which means this was outside because this thing was at my window. And it stopped right at my window. And you heard it walk up. It sounded like it was chewing on something. And then it stopped at my window.
That's creepy.
No, it's actually funny because I wave to him all the time.
That's what they do. I mean, that one in northern Idaho, I mean, walked up underneath the deck and was tapping on the window. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, that big hand streak down the window in the dust. So, and a subscriber of mine went through those videos and actually found in the video called Out Exploring, big, massive Bigfoot standing next to the tree. I never even saw it, so.
Yeah. Well,
these
guys, let me tell you, I don't know why, but it seems like any place I've gone to, they're just kind of quiet. They're not aggressive. They don't show themselves very often, although Denny did have his first sighting, which now I know he's a knower.
Wow.
He went out one night and had his flashlight. The dogs were barking like crazy and he wanted to see they were going ballistic. And when he shone the light, I have a bunch of trees out there and some of these trees are kind of, just white colored because there's no leaves or anything on them. And he had shined a light out there and came back in saying, I don't remember that big white tree being there. And he goes, I think there was something else there. And I said, well, go back out and look, you got the flashlight. And when he went back out and looked in the same spot, that big old white thing was gone. And that big old white thing was an older sassy, I believe. And it was silverish color, whitish silverish color.
And when the light reflects off of it, it looks white.
Right. And so when he came back in, he was like, it's gone. So
Trees don't walk away, Danny.
trees don't walk away, but I don't know. I can't wait. Like I said, I can't wait until my loft is done. I can go back to my night chats because I want to spend some time
Right.
trying to figure out how far they'll actually go, with communication. I want to see. 'Cause I swear, driving home one night when I was out there, and I say Okahina, which is hello friend, and I say that all the time. And I'll even be driving down the road. I'll roll down the window and I'll just yell, not yell, but I'll say out loud Okahina. And I was driving from my neighbor's house back home, and I'd rolled down the window and I just got ready to say Okahina. And as God is my witness, I heard someone say friend. And I stopped the car dead in my tracks, stopped the car, looked out the window, looked everywhere, and I was like, okay, I'm losing my marbles. And then I just kept going.
And here's what you do. You go out in the woods and you find yourself a branch, manageable branch, that comes up into a Y, a single piece, one solid piece Y, and you go put that out there somewhere and see what they do with it.
The first thing I'm going to do is what I'm doing now. I want to open up the lines of communication through conversation first and see how they respond. After that, I'll start doing things by. I won't touch anything yet. I know there's a couple spots out there where they have put great big X's. I've found the symbols on the ground. I've found all kinds of stuff that I pretend like I just ignore. And I'm waiting because it is cold out. We have no routine here yet because it's so cold. I can't go out every night, start a fire, sit around until it gets dark. I can't do any routine. So I have to wait until the weather changes a little bit, then I will start my routine. But I will have my loft ready and start my live chats. And I think at that point, when I start my live chats, I'll be at the window every night. That'll be my first routine. Let me see how they respond to those before I start going out into their living rooms and start doing anything. I don't want to do anything out there yet.
Before you answer what is on the screen right now, I have to say something. That you would say Denny would go out, you'd hear the door open, he'd go out, do his business, and come back in. And one of these days, he's going to walk out, and he's going to be doing his business. He's going to hear something slightly growl. He's going to look down and realize he's peeing on someone's foot. He's going to look up and go, sorry. So
I don't think they'll do that because they know he's a little nervous of them. So I don't think they'll do that. I do believe that they know. Well, I know that they know he urinates in one specific area. And now that we got that porta potty here, he no longer has to go out there to that area.
Boy.
They're getting a little bit more. They're getting a little bit more bold since we moved into the shed house, which is a little bit bigger than the other one we moved out of, and so they're getting a little bit more curious. They're coming.
You better anchor that porta potty down. I'd hate for somebody to be in it and have one walk up and just kind of push it over.
I've been waiting. We've actually felt that at night, and I've heard. In fact, when Lizzie was here, the porta potty was on the opposite side of the trailer of the shed house, and we heard the door open and close. And Lizzie and I sat there on the bed, looking at each other. No Ramona, no Snow. And we were both looking at each other. Of course, Denny just had his headphones on. He was watching a movie or something. And she goes, "Oh my gosh, Grandma." And I said, "Yeah, I know. I heard it." And she pulled the covers up over her head. She goes, "Grandma." And I said, "Don't worry about it." I said, "I don't think they're going to do anything." But I think they had to open the door to find out. What else would have opened the door?
What was in it? Right. Right.
No, I mean, if it was a raccoon or something, they could have gotten stuck in it, or it would have banged on their head. You would have heard a noise, I mean, raccoons can open it, although that door is really hard to open. It's not, it has that real tight spring on it. It'll slam shut really hard.
Right.
So I'm not saying that there's not a possibility that another animal could have tried opening it, but I will say this, they had to open it pretty darn wide for it to slam that hard.
It was as if a person had walked into it.
Exactly. And we have actually felt this shed house almost feel like it moved. So, and yes, we had wind, but there's no way this thing would move. So I'm thinking that something was walking between the porta potty and the shed house and kind of hit the house a little bit. It's the only thing I can think of, because nothing else is going to move it.
That's right. It definitely sounds like this is going to be very, very good experiences compared to sitting in the window and doing your live streams and hearing things being thrown at the house, and the
and seeing them. Many people on my live chats actually saw them before I did, because they were inverted and I never saw it. They would see them before I did.
And your neighbors and stuff across the way during your life. I mean, all of a sudden one night that place was lit up like freaking Fort Knox. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like,
and he told me,
why are they putting up all those lights?
Yeah, I went over there and asked him that one time, and he told me his wife demanded that he light it up because they kept hearing things. And he said, now I know why. I had that feeling like someone was watching me, and he had to close he had built a workshop, and he always had, he'd go out there at night and he would leave the door open. And he said it got to a point where he kept feeling like he was being watched, so he just closed the door. And now he knows why. And I told him, I said, you're not going to believe me, but I'm telling you, there's Sasquatch out there. He goes, that makes perfect sense. The things being thrown at the house, the dog missing and then came back. He had a little teeny yapper dog that went missing for a couple of days, but came back just happy and healthy and no big deal. And
came back, he was out hanging out with his friends.
He was hanging out with his friends, and he thought it got taken by coyotes because there's a lot of coyotes out there.
Right.
But then when the camo dude started, everything just kind of stopped. But I'm glad we moved anyway.
Yeah, everything happens for a reason, right?
Yep, sure does.
Yeah, I keep asking him why. I keep trying to tell him my name's not Job. I have to admit I am tired.
These are all little tests for us throughout life.
Little tests.
I know.
I'm being facetious here, but these are all tests for us and stuff. I mean, obviously, our destinies are all pre-planned and everything like that, and maybe this property is your calling.
Supposed to be. Yeah,
it's where you're supposed to be.
Oh yeah, I believe that. I don't know why we had to go. I think the only reason that we ended up in the place we did was because it was last minute. We had no place to go.
Right.
So that was just a stepping stone, because the Lord had no place to put us until this one opened up.
Right.
And this one actually didn't open up until we flooded. Then they bought this property. So you got to look at timing. I think everything's perfect timing in his eyes, just not in ours.
Yeah. It would have been nice to do that before the flooding, but
well, I don't know. Anyways, I'm still alive. It don't matter.
You're all still alive. The dogs are all still alive, and it sounds like the dogs are making great friends out in the woods.
Sounds like
you had to put a pillow in the window, right?
Yeah, I put we don't have walls yet. And so there's a small window in what is supposed to be the bathroom, and it is right in our eyes in the morning. So Denny said, if we could do something to cover that window. So I figured, I had taken a couple of the cushions from the RV before they took it, and one of them is the perfect size of that window. It's small and it's long. So I just shoved it in the window. Well, I don't think they like that very much, because now I've heard tapping on the back of the house where I sleep. So I don't think they like the pillow.
Yeah,
I think
sleeping.
Instead of peeking in and watching, they're trying to get you to come out so they can see you.
Yeah, well, I don't know what they're doing, but I know what was cool is laying there, getting ready to go to sleep or listening, whichever one I'm doing, because a lot of times I can't sleep. But I was going ahead and looking out that window because it's at a certain time at night, the moon is right on the other side of that window, and it's just beautiful to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And one night I turn over and Denny's coughing like crazy, and he says he's got to get up, and so he gets up for a few minutes, and I'm facing his direction, which is away from that window. And when I turn back around, I don't see the moon. And I was like, well, couldn't have gone that far. And then I turned back around to pay attention to Denny, and when I looked back, there was the moon again. I was like, holy crap.
You were watching.
I was like, dang it.
right up on that window.
How high
Right up on that window.
How high?
Yeah.
Off the ground?
You know,
Yeah, do what? It's
How high is the window off the ground?
I would say probably about 8 foot off the ground, maybe a little higher
that's
Wow.
right.
The window. from the
The whole
ground.
shed house is elevated off the ground a little bit too. So
Oh, it's off the ground a whole bunch on this end. Not so very much on the far end, but on this end where we sleep, it's about 2 foot off the ground.
and then
So how
it's
far to the
probably-
window?
It's probably 6 feet up the wall.
Yeah. So between the height of the rock and then the pieces of concrete that were put in there to level it out, and then the shed itself. So I'm saying probably close to 8.
Wow. That's just high level for him. Huh?
You know, all of this reminds me of a story. Actually, there's actually video of it too about a gentleman in East Texas. Interesting that he would be in East Texas. Sitting there watching his TV. To the right is a big 3 foot by 4 foot window. He's got the blinds pulled up, and he just watching TV, and he gets the feeling of being watched, and he looks out the window, and he can it's staying just out of the light, you know what I mean? But he can kind of see a silhouette and stuff like that. So he got an idea to get his camera, set it on a table to his other side facing that window. And he did the same thing he does every night. He sits in the recliner, leans back, and he watches TV. That window is on his right, so the camera is crossing him in the chair, looking at the window. And I think about 20 minutes into it, you see this face go.
That
Jeez.
would be creepy.
You have no idea, Louis, how creepy it actually is.
They were coming up and they were watching TV, and he didn't freak out or nothing. You know what I mean? He's like, it looks like a caveman, and a big giant caveman. And we all know Standing Goats Rescue, that's how he described his. It was just this big, giant looking caveman, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Oh, interesting that he's in East Texas, and now you're right at the border of East Texas, and
yeah, he's right there.
Yeah, right there. So you're probably, that hot spot is getting bigger, and I think you were probably
Right in the
within
hot
the
zone.
borders of that hot spot. So,
I remember asking when I first moved here to a couple of neighbors, I asked them if they believed in Sasquatch, and they all emphatically and very quickly said no, that was just a myth or a legend or blah, blah, blah. But come to find out last week when we had those people over who were our neighbors, they ended up opening up and finally telling me the truth, that they have had encounters. And so, people want to keep that to themselves because they probably don't trust the new people coming in. They're thinking maybe they're just, maybe they're Sasquatch investigators or researchers, or they're going to go comb the woods and look for them or try to hunt them down and kill them or something along those lines.
right.
All I know is that they all said an emphatic no. And now they're telling me their stories.
Right.
So I'm getting stories from, a couple people out here. And then some of them, if I ask them, because you'll see around this neighborhood, there's not a whole bunch of them, but sporadically you'll see these big old, cutouts of Sasquatch.
Right.
So
Right.
it's not like it's news to them here. These
Right.
people have
Right.
lived here forever. And the guy that I talked to, he's been here since he was a child, and he's in his 50s.
Wow. He's seen a lot. You know,
I bet
Yeah.
he's got stories.
especially
Yeah, he's
out
got stories. And he's Native American. He doesn't want to bring up, there's a lot of things that he just won't bring
Right.
up. He
Right.
keeps to himself. And I guess they believe that the more people you tell, the worse it is for them. So they just keep their mouths shut.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Something bad
know-
will happen to them.
It's weird that you talk about how the people react and stuff when you ask them. You know what I mean? My wife's father lives in northern Idaho, and we used to go up there once, twice, three times a year. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to get up there because of all the COVID BS. But it's funny and stuff because we would go to the local. It's a small little town. It's only like 2,800 people at most. And we'd go to the little market. And we're standing in line. I was actually wearing this sweatshirt, and every time I'm up there, I wear something that's Bigfoot related because it's a great way to open the door of conversation without coming out and saying, "Hey, do you believe in Bigfoot?" You know what I mean? The cashier looks at me and says, "Oh, I like your sweatshirt." And I'm all, "Oh yeah, you got any stories?" And she just immediately put her head down, rang the stuff through faster just to get me out of there. And it's happened quite a few times. It's like there's a place in Coeur d'Alene called Coeur d'Alene Clothing Company, and they have a big Bigfoot in the window, and it's carrying a piece of wood that's in the shape of the state of Idaho. You know what I mean? They have stickers and stuff like that. But when you ask people, they just, no, It's they know about them, but they are not going to talk about it. You know what I mean? So,
Well, this is the first time I've heard somebody say that they thought that bad things would come to them if they opened up about them. I mean, I've never heard that before. And I'm hoping.
I think that pretty much just comes from the Indian part of it. You know what I mean? Not so much just the.
I think even the native tribes and stuff back in the day were probably worried about being ridiculed. They probably said it before, and they thought, crazy Indian, crazy. He's just a nut. That tribe is crazy.
Right.
They stopped doing it just like anybody else would have done. I would have stopped saying it too. But at this point in my life, I don't care if I'm crazy. I'm just crazy.
But at the same time, we hear stories that Indians used to live side by side with them, and they would trade things.
Yeah,
back and forth. You know what I mean?
It's like Lady. She does the same thing. She lives side by side with him.
Right.
Yeah, I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if people don't believe me. It doesn't bother me one bit if they don't believe me, because they haven't had an eye-to-eye encounter multiple times. I mean, I can't get the eyeballs out of my head. I can't. It's probably one of the reasons I don't sleep very well now. Because I used to sleep like a rock, but now for some reason, nighttime I'm awake, and during the day I'm just groggy. I mean, I need a lot of coffee. But it's hard. It's very hard because you close your eyes and you see them. Like I said, my encounter with the big guy was maybe 5-6 feet away, but my encounter with the juvenile was 2 feet away. Eye to eye.
Right.
So you can't get those eyes out of your head. You can't get that fact that juvenile was 7.5 foot tall. Out of your head. It just changes. So I don't really care what anybody says anymore. And if they want to call me a nut or a kook, that's fine. That is fine. I pray honestly that people don't have bad encounters, that if they see them the first time from a distance and they can make up their mind, because, I used to consider myself halfway normal until this happened. And now I don't know what to do with myself at night. I mean, it's rough. It really is. It's not that I'm afraid, because I'll walk outside if they're throwing things and yell at them. I mean, I'm not.
Yeah, right. That's what could happen.
Yeah, it's weird. I can go out there and I know they're out there, and I can go out there and say, "Hey, knock it off," or "Don't do that," and come right back inside. But I'm waiting for the next sound. I'm waiting for the next time they make a a coo noise or a click noise or a whistle, then I run to the window, open up and say, "What'd you say?" And
Right.
my husband probably thinks I'm nuts, but that's what happens. I mean, I'm waiting. It's just so weird.
I'm right there with you. I mean, I did a lot of theoretical research and stuff before I even set foot in the woods. And honestly, I didn't think they were anywhere in Southern California. My first experience was in Northern Idaho in my father-in-law's backyard.
Yeah. Hi, sis.
And, I mean, I didn't even tell my wife that I was into Bigfoot for almost 6 years. And I don't know how it happened, but she ended up finding out. And she the same thing, she probably thought I was crazy until she found her first 17-inch footprint in the snow in our local mountains. So now she is she's the one that bought me. She's bound and determined now that everything I wear has something to do with Bigfoot. So all of my wardrobe is because of my wife, and she really supports me and stuff like that. And I mean, she's found stuff herself, even in the local mountains here, and she's a firm believer. So
it's nice when you have somebody to support you. I know in the beginning when this first started, to Jenny and I both, it was just something to do. It's just
right.
But
it was a curiosity.
Right. But when I started coming home and telling him about the experiences I had, I know for a fact that he questioned them. When I told my kids know that I won't lie to them. So that's the only reason they believe me is because they know I won't lie to them. And if I tell them something's real and that I've seen it, hey sis, then they're going to believe that I saw it. They could probably, I don't know, say, I wonder what's going on out there with mom. Maybe she's losing her marbles, but she did say she saw it. So if she said she saw it, she had to have. Now all of a sudden, my kids are in. My grandkids are in. They'll go out at night. Now when they hear noises, they run back in the house because they're afraid that there's a Sasquatch out there. But now Denny has had his own, sightings.
Right.
Everything changes. I mean,
Right.
There's enough going on in the world right now that you don't need something like this to get you any more nervous than you already are, I guess. But
Right.
it's there's nothing you can do about it unless you just don't want them around. If you don't want them around, there's ways of doing it. There are ways of making them. I've helped quite a few people, get rid of theirs or at least make them stop being semi-aggressive, what I call semi-aggressive. But other than that, I think for the most part, if you just leave them alone, they'll leave you alone. They just aren't, they're not interested. They're curious, but they're not interested in wanting to spend time with us. I just don't.
Right.
I think they'd much rather, go about their business and not have to deal with you,
Right. And, I mean, I can attest to that and stuff up in Northern Idaho. I was helping my father-in-law was having a big garden put in and stuff for my mother-in-law, and I hired a guy, and he was on a tractor and stuff, and we were filling these big cedar planter boxes, and we had a tractor running. Okay, you know how loud a tractor is.
Mm-hmm.
They're not the quietest things on the planet. It ain't no Tesla. And we hear this crack, and he literally, I mean, he was on the tractor, and I saw his head go. And then he drove over to me, and he's all, "Did you hear that?" And I'm all, "Yeah, what'd it sound like to you?" He's all, "Sounds like someone took a Louisville Slugger as hard as they could against a tree." And I'm all, "That's what it sounded like to me. You probably have a watcher."
Yeah.
Without trying to bring up the whole conversation, he's all, "Watcher?" And his eyes kind of got a little big, and I'm all, "Yeah, don't worry about it. They ain't gonna do nothing. They're just they don't like change. So they're just trying to figure out what we're doing."
Yeah.
And he's all, "Who?" And I'm all, "Them." And he's all, "Well, who's them?" And I'm all, "Them." I was trying to get him to come out and say the word, but he wasn't having it. And we were standing there talking and stuff, and we look up on the hillside. He's like, "You see that big black spot up there on the hill? In between those two trees?" Yeah. That wasn't there a minute ago. And I'm all, yeah, it's probably the washer.
One of them.
It's just one of them, you know. And he wouldn't come out and he wouldn't talk about it. It's like he knew what I was getting at, but he wasn't going to engage in that conversation, you know. So
Yeah.
he just, and that was. I learned so much stuff from that property. That was when I realized how fast they really are. And you could walk right by one and not even know it was there, you know. So
Yeah, that's scary. You know, I mean, I know that we've probably all done it. You know, just walk through the woods and not even paid any attention to our surroundings. Well, you know, one thing I do when I get to an area, first thing I do is I just kind of generally scan,
right,
you know, and see, you know, the immediate surroundings. But I have no idea what's on the inside. If I go to an area, I'll ask them first, you know, do you have cougar here? Do you have bear here? What are your predators? I need to know that first.
You learn your local animal.
And there are so many people now that are interested in the Sasquatch topic that I don't pay much attention to structures anymore, because I watched it actually happen here when they were trying to build a cabin 2 properties over, and they had this big old dozer here and they were knocking down trees. And that really upsets me because they knocked down way too many, more than they had to actually to build that cabin. But you should have seen how some of those trees fell. They fell into X's. They fell into, I mean, you can tell that was not Sasquatch done. That was done by a dozer.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying all of them are. I'm just saying I don't pay attention to that anymore, because there's just too many. It's too easy in an area that's open to the public for people to go out and hoax that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we have those kind of little forest areas in the middle of our town, and you know, there's not connected to woods. And I do the same thing out there. I look for exactly what you're talking about, and it's like, see, that fell just like that, and nobody did it. And you know, because you can't go out into the woods in those areas because it's protected. You know.
Yeah, right. And there's a lot of places out there where you see one up in the top, and there's no way that you could tell that there's not another tree around it that fell on it, unless a tornado did it and flew it all the way over there. There's no way. It's in between, woven in between other trees. Now that I'll pay attention to.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Hillary, Lady, can you describe what they both look like? All right, the big one, what I called the alpha, he was wider than from what I saw. He covered up, if you know anything about an RV with a push out where your dining area is, if you're looking from the bedroom window out at that push out, it pushes out probably about 5, maybe 6 feet. Well, that was all covered, completely black. So he was wide as wide can possibly be. I had to basically almost fall off the bed to look straight up in the air just to find his eyeballs, because I didn't know what it was, because there shouldn't have been anything there. There was nothing that would have blacked out that white. I'd been looking at that white for 3 years. I mean, give me a break. Every time I went up there, I knew exactly what the back of that trailer looked like, or the side of that trailer. But his eyes were very far apart. They were not like the small one I saw in the window. They weren't big, huge, as far as like egg-shaped eyes. They were squinted, but they were big and far apart. And his face looked, and the only thing I can, I guess, compare it to is it looked almost like someone had taken a chisel and chiseled the outline of his face. That's what was striking to me. I didn't see muscle and stuff like that on him. I was more intent eye to eye because he was staring me down. And I kept asking him, you know, what did I do? You know, why are you here? You know, I didn't do anything wrong. You know, I don't mean any harm. You know, I just didn't know why he was standing there, and I didn't know why he was staring at me. And I don't even know how long he had been standing there. You know, I mean, so that was kind of a shock to me. The little one that showed up in the window that night popped up so fast that all I can tell you was its face was smooth. Its eyes were round like, I don't know, golf balls. And its mouth was wide open just like mine. We both did the same exact expression. We both were like shocked, you know, that's right. Wide open mouth, wide open eyes, like, oh my gosh. Yeah, and it didn't expect me to see underneath the mini blinds, because in the RVs they have those little teeny mini blinds, and I had them closed almost completely down. So when this Sasquatch popped up in the window, it probably expected to see nothing, because every time we had been there, either my windows were open or the blinds were open or both, and I had the fire going. But this night it was so cold, I closed everything. We had no heat up there. And Lizzie and I were freezing, so we closed everything. But I couldn't sleep because I kept hearing the noises, which at the time I thought was the horses, you know. And then I'm looking out there and I'm seeing these shadows walk by, and I'm saying my eyes are playing tricks on me. And next thing I know, this face pops up in the window. I mean, and we're looking at each other eye to eye, and he had the cutest little tuft of hair on the top part of it, right in between, you know, if you go straight up from the nose, just this little teeny tuft of hair. And I was like, oh my gosh, how cute. Yeah, okay, cute. You know, I mean, it looked like a baby to me. And then, but that one, all I can say is that the face was rounded like you would a child. You know, it didn't have the chiseled out features. From what I'm guessing, because you couldn't really tell because it's at night, I couldn't really tell you. It was dark. The Sasquatch was dark, but I couldn't tell you if its hair was black or brown, or I could tell you right now it wasn't blonde. It wasn't bright red. I think I would have seen that through that close.
Dark color.
But it was dark, and when it popped up, what was just completely obvious was its eyes, its nose, its mouth, and that little tuft of hair, because the moonshine behind it made that little tuft of hair look like, you know, a Spike on Gremlins. I mean, it was cute. It was weird. It was just absolutely weird. So now, you know, I come back at a later date, and I went home and I was just so excited. I told everybody about it. I was just jumping up and down for joy. You know, they had revealed themselves to me. I'd actually seen them, you know, face to face that close. And then people gave me their opinions of why Papa showed up. And earlier that day, I had been seeing the eye shine out there, and the babies were running around, and I could hear them making all their noises and jumping on the trees. You could hear the trees shaking, you know, they're playing. And all of a sudden the woods go silent and no more eye shine. And I'm like, what happened? You know, where'd they go? And of course, Lizzie falls asleep, and I'm just sitting there. And I'm looking at the campfire, which is on my left. It's on the left window. And on the right is the back of the trailer where the pushout is. So I'm looking at the fire, and I'm waiting for the babies to show up out there, or something to show up out there, and nothing. It's completely dead silent. And I was like, what the heck? What happened? And all of a sudden I look back just for a brief second, and that white is now black. I was like, what the heck? What would be shadowing to make that completely black? Because the 3 years I'd been up there, nothing ever made that black. No matter where the moon was, no matter where the sun was, it was never black. So then I kind of roll my head off the side of the bed and looking up, and I'm almost to the floor before I see the eyes. And I was like, holy crap. My hands are shaking right now as I'm talking to you. My hands are literally shaking. Oh my gosh. When you go,
Dad had to come by to make sure that he was there. His kids were okay to be playing around there. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
that's why Dad came by.
Yeah, and once he was fine with it, I was able to see the whole clan.
Game on.
Then that night they all walked by. I mean, I stopped counting at 9, and then 10, and then 11 is when the baby popped up, and you know, we both just kind of jumped, and I was like, oh my gosh, and I'm trying to get Lizzie up, and she's just wordless. She just forget, you know, she wasn't getting up for nothing. Then all of a sudden, this thing pops up again, and we do the same thing over again. And so twice it had done it, and then it took off running, and I was like trying so hard to wake up Lizzie. And I went home just a wreck. You should. I mean, everybody in my family was like, what? And I said, you would not believe what I just saw. It was so freaky. I mean, oh my gosh, face to face, a foot and a half. We're not even talking 2 feet. With a window there, of course, but we're not even talking 2 feet. I was eye to eye with this thing. And it changed my whole world. It just changed me, completely changed me.
Absolutely does.
I never go out in the woods the same, never. I mean, and I go armed. You know, people, that's a lot of controversy, but I go armed.
I don't.
You know, I do because there's too.
They frown down on. We're in California. They'll shoot you if you have a gun here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well,
So, like over there, you got to have a gun. In Montana, you can get to carry a gun. You know,
Idaho too.
you can't do that here.
well,
Yeah.
I'll carry because of the bear, the cougar, and the hog that are here. You know, I'm not worried about the coyotes. And I'm not really, most of the time, I'm not worried about most of the animals if I have my dogs with me, because at least they'll get the animals' attention enough to where it give me time to get away. So
Right.
I don't know, but I'm carrying it just in case. I
Yeah.
would never pull my gun on a Sasquatch ever, ever.
Northern Idaho, the only thing you really got to worry about is the moose.
Oh yeah, I've never seen one up close and personal. but-
Especially if there's a baby. So
Yeah.
they get pretty mean, but really don't have to worry about cats. Really don't have to worry about bears. They're few and far between up there, and the moose are the problem, you know. And
Yeah. Well, our neighbor had said that they saw a mama bear with the cubs, you know, not too long back. So, you know, I could imagine that's why the dogs were going ballistic. I can't leave Tank and Bella out at all at night anymore. Now the puppies, they're okay. They're in their, you know, little enclosure there, and they can go inside their dog house and they're fine. And nothing has gone after the chicken. You know, not since we put the big cage on top of the little chicken coop, because something apparently tried to get into the chicken coop prior to us putting that cage on top, because it was bent in completely.
Whoa.
The top part of it was bent in, so something definitely tried to get the chicken. But I think if it was a sassy, he just could have picked it up and taken the chicken. You know?
flipped it over, just taking the chicken. You know, so
Cage and all.
I would have just flipped that cage over like nothing.
Yeah, excuse me. My GERD is acting up.
Well, it sounds like your new property is going to be chock full of good adventures.
Yeah, I think between the other animals we have here and the dogs and then the sassy, I think at night it should be really interesting. I can't wait to get up there. I cannot wait to get up there and get started.
Are you planning on going out during the day and doing some videos and stuff out in the woods during the day to show some people, see if you find anything, do some exploring?
Well, I don't plan on doing anything in the cold. Absolutely not. I'm a freeze
Well,
baby.
yeah, I mean, not right now, but when it warms.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
Like
we
I
want you to
said,
go right now. Like
yeah,
right now.
no, not happening. You'll go alone. No, it's too cold. It's too cold for me out there. I don't do well in cold at all. I really think, like I said, once I get started doing the live chats up there again, because they're around at night, I hear them. You know, Denny's already seen them. I caught them on audio. I keep trying. I keep forgetting to put that stupid game camera in the hothouse. I have the batteries, I have the game camera, but I just keep forgetting. And my hothouse, by the way, my plants looked horrible today, and I was so upset. But I have a lot to do here. Like I said, those of you that have seen my videos of the interior, we don't have walls yet. We don't have flooring. We don't have ceiling. We don't even have we have the dividers only, you know, for the bathroom we have no bathroom. We have no kitchen. We have a lot of work to do. So I think what I'll do is my time off will be going out and walking in the woods, but I can't go live anymore out there because it just cuts off, and then it won't allow me to upload it. You know how you stop the live chat and then it uploads? That doesn't happen. If it stops out there, I have to come back and delete it. So I'm wasting those.
Well,
You know, so that bothers me.
well, well, just start doing videos. Just video it on your video or your camera, and then just upload the video. You know.
Well, yeah, now that we have new video and a new internet, I mean, I'm hoping that it'll work out. We got rid of Viasat. It was the worst internet on the planet. We have something now called Valiant, and it works really well.
Oh,
Wonderful,
let me
wonderful.
hear
Quiet, Tony.
that.
Oh, trust me, Ramona, I've got tons of layers of long john. They don't help. I just stay in the house, and I think, you know, once I create a routine, things are going to be just like they were at the house in Arkansas. They'll know when to come up. They'll know when I'll be at what window. You know, they'll know when I'm going to go out into the woods. You know, I'll set up routines because they really like routines, and I know by watching your videos, once you start going to the same place all the time and doing the same thing all the time, they like it, and they'll start they'll calm down a little bit. Once you start making any changes, they don't like change at all.
Unfortunately, I've had to change due to compromising situations. But I think in a few weeks it'll be better for all of us, and it'll just be a better situation altogether. Have you thought about putting apples out or something for them?
No, I'm not gonna do anything. No, I put out the apple and the bag of peanuts, and I left them there. They've never been touched. They have never been touched. But that's probably on the wrong side of the house also. It's where we pull in and out all the time. It's where the dogs run all the time. And they don't know me. So they didn't take it, but they're still curious. They're still coming as close to the, like to my window. So the curiosity is there, but they're not willing to take anything yet. So I've got some work to do. And that I'm thinking, like I said, I've learned through the only the very minimal years I've been doing this, 5 years. I've learned that if you take your time with them and you do it as a routine and they get used to it, you do it slow, then they show up a lot more. I mean, look at the live chats in Arkansas.
Right.
They knew exactly when Dusty was coming home. They knew exactly when it was like clockwork.
Yeah.
They knew where to go, when to go, behind a tree or behind the house or get in the backyard. They knew exactly when to do it. So same thing will happen. Yeah, if they want any kind of communication, they might not though, guys. What if they don't want communication here?
Mm-hmm.
I'll still do my live chats, but they may not. I can't guarantee that they'll want communication here.
Right.
Or interaction. They might, be curious, but just keep right on going and not want any interaction with you at all.
Place.
Here's an idea. Instead of physically taking apples and putting them out and stuff, why not plant an apple tree? That's something natural. It grows. They come in at their own time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I have one growing in my hot house now. So nice. I also have my my grapes that are in the hot house now. Of course, everything is dormant until spring. But once spring hits and I know we're past the first freeze, then I'll go ahead and put those out.
Wonderful. Can't wait. I can't wait to see what happens. Definitely going to keep in contact with you.
Well, they better not pull my baby plants out of the ground. I'll be mad.
That'd be fine if they pulled the whole tree out of the ground and took the whole apple tree.
Yeah. I don't think they would because they know that I don't think they would because then it means the tree's no longer going to produce apples, So I definitely think they're smarter than that, and they're just going to let the tree grow and do its thing so they can keep coming back to that tree and getting apples.
Yeah, they'll go and take the leaves off of an apple tree and just eat the leaves until the apples are ripe enough that they want to eat them. Right. I've seen that done too. Oh, Reddy says, do you think that Boo followed you? I don't know, Reddy. I pray that Boo would follow, but I don't. And don't think I'm weird, guys, but you know what? I knew in my heart when Boo was around. I could tell on the property in Arkansas. I could tell on the property, on Sandy's property. But when I got to the property in Oklahoma where we flooded, I didn't feel Boo there at all. I was hoping, I was praying that Boo would follow, and I don't feel it here either. I don't know. I really wish I would see him again. I really do but if he's still in that area up by Sandy, it's not very far away. In fact, we're very close to each other. So if he is still there.
You think his territory comes up to that area, you think? Or if he has the territory?
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool if he's over there.
Sorry, that's the dogs. You guys stop. It's playtime inside. They're going crazy.
Sound like a couple of horses.
Yeah, that's what they are.
They're miniature horses, pretty much.
You're like, no.
Tank went from like this cute little puppy to this massive
Tank.
But he he's a lap dog.
Oh yeah, I'm telling you, he is hysterical. But like I told you before, Bella, when she looks at you, she looks like a human looking at you. You can see her
Right.
thinking, I mean,
Right.
but Tank looks at you with these robot eyes, he just gives you this look and you're like, is there anybody there? That's why I call him a box of rocks, because there's nothing there.
Hello? Anybody in there? Lights on, nobody's
Bye.
home. Lights on, but
That's what
nobody's
my
home.
dog did. That's what my dog did when I came back from a ride. And I just got my hair cut. I pulled it up. He was like, just staring at me like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "Hello."
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Tank's also not having problems with the big guys out here because his tail goes to wagging and he goes to doing that puppy bark thing. And I can tell that big guys are around something that's not, he wants to play. It's not an aggressive
Right.
bark. He wants to play. So, and he's taken off before, this last time was horrible. I mean, we went ahead and got them collars, that have the vibrate and the tone on them, as I don't want them taken off. There's lots of acreage back behind us. I mean, it goes for miles, 40, 50 miles back there of nobody, no houses. How much? You said over 1,000 acres just behind us.
Nice.
Nobody living there. So, so I don't want him to disappear.
That is a good habitat for some Sasquatch, let me tell you.
Yeah, and there's lots of creeks back there, and I'm waiting for it to warm up because I want to walk the property line to the back. And my husband's trying to get the dogs to stop. There's a big, huge lake back there. And
nice.
I told her, I told the neighbor, I said, I can't wait to get my fishing license. She said, for what? And I said, to go fishing. She goes, this is my property. She goes, go fishing when you want. I was like, score. So and she said, it's full bass. And I said, ain't catfish? And she said, oh yeah. I said, I'll be there.
There you go.
So,
there you go. You're going to have to, when you guys get all settled in and set up and stuff, you're going to have to take some time and go build a dock out there and get a little canoe going or a little John boat, and
oh no. I'm not going to do anything because that's on her property. But what I am going to do is not put a fence between hers and mine. And I'm going to go back there and I'll just fish off the bank. But guess who else likes fish? Big guys like fish.
They do. They love it.
yeah.
Yeah. There's a guy.
They put these rocks all the way along the creek, the river, the San Luis Rey River. They built walls to trap fish in it. The walls used to never be there. They built them. They were never there. I've been going there for 10 years and it wasn't there. And they built these little walls and it traps them in. It's
little fish traps.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they did that. I was like, wow, that's a pretty cool idea.
Well, I know that no, Tank, no, hold on. Stop. Like I said, he wants to be a lap dog. He's going to take everything with him. Tony said, Denny, throw him Lady's shoe. No. What? Okay. Anyways, I cannot wait. I'm just so excited for the weather to break. And like I said, I'm pretty sure that I'll have at least some time before it gets really hot to spend some time out there. And I do plan on having another get together here on this piece of property because there's a lot more places for people to park and for them to camp out here. Carol and Bill were the last one. Tex showed up for a while.
Nice.
Ramona was there. I mean, we had a really good time, and it didn't take very long before people got there, including Mark. Mark showed up at the other property, and he wasn't there. I don't think he was there 10, 15 minutes before they whistled at him. I mean, so
Right.
they are not afraid of, if they know. I think it's if they know that that they're around.
That's right.
They're going to make them presence known.
Yeah, they can definitely sense that you know about them, and once they sense that you know about them, it's game on. It's game on. It's
Yeah.
whatever.
We went.
I mean, it's game on. I mean, so
when we went down to Falk, Martha had never seen. Martha was down there. Ramona was down there. Pat was down there. You know, the first night and the second night, you know, we heard a lot of noises and stuff. Christy showed up. You know, I think it was that Friday, right, Christy? Did you show up on Friday or Saturday? Friday? Yeah. Why are you muted?
Because my dogs are barking, but no, I came up on Saturday.
Oh, Saturday. Okay, that's right. Yeah.
Saturday.
And what was really funny is we're standing out there in the dark, and I mean you can see the shadows and stuff, and that's where Ramona's camera moved. We didn't move. We were not moving, and that camera was moving by itself. We were standing there freaking out, saying, "How is that possible?" You know, I mean, it was so weird to watch both of our cameras doing the same thing. But anyways, the owls, we got the owls started, but you should have been there. I mean, it was the funniest thing ever because you could hear what? You could hear the footsteps outside, and they were walking on the plastic from the tents. And then all of a sudden you hear Pat say, "Get off me," or something like that, or she yells it. And we're cracking up laughing, but we're trying to figure out, you know, what's going on, you know, because I didn't think it was a Sasquatch that was doing it. And then all of a sudden I said, "What's the matter?" And she goes, "Well, they're trying to sit on the tent."
Yeah, but see, also saw when I had the lantern on and I couldn't turn that lantern off. I don't know. It was that screwy one. Remember, because that stupid guy came and told us to put the fire out. So we all had to sit by a lantern. And so when I got in the tent and I went to go turn the thing off, that's when she seen the shadow. Shadow walk up to the back side of the tent where I was at with Joe. And you remember? She's like, "I see."
Yeah. Because all three of our tents we were away from Ramona and her RV. Tony, no, I don't think he was whistling at the dogs. But we were in different areas. And actually, before that happened to Pat and Christy, we had heard them making noise in the front part where we had the campfire. And we could hear them getting into the pans. And I thought, well, it could be a raccoon, but you actually heard them take the lid off of the pan that I had made my breakfast stuff in and put the lid back down. You heard that. You know, we were sitting there and I'm trying to look outside. And then where Ramona's truck and her RV, you know, where they attach, I saw movement. And then I saw a light above her RV. And I asked her about the next day. And she goes, "I didn't have any light on." Well, we saw eye shine. We heard the noise out there. I mean, they were running around all over the place out there, but it was hysterical. I mean, it was absolutely. We spent most of the night just laughing. Well, except for Pat. Pat was yelling. And I said, "Just come out." And she goes, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, let's just come out." Of course, it stopped when we came out.
And she tried. Remember, you had to hold Pat back because she wanted to run back in the woods after them.
Yeah. Because I said, "What are you going to do?" I mean, it was too funny because they were actually trying to sit. I think they were actually trying to sit on her tent, the smaller one. It wasn't. Oh my gosh! Yeah. See, there she goes. She said, "Yep, slept with her shoes on." It was. Oh my gosh! It was the best. I mean, everything is real quiet except for of course, the outside noises. And all of a sudden you hear Pat start yelling at somebody, something. We're like, "What are you yelling at?" She said, "Get off of me." "Get off the tent," or whatever she said.
When you told me the story about that guy that you went up in the same area with, that the Sasquatch stepped on the tent, I was laying back and I could hear it walking. And I'm just laying down. And I'm listening, and I'm like, my head's right there by the side of the tent. So I kind of take my bag and I push the bag so the tent wall is not close to my head, you know? On my head.
Yeah, because I mean, close. It was close to David's head, really close. It actually touched his little air mattress that he was laying on. I mean, that's how big the foot was. And he had actually, when he stepped by David's head, he pushed that whole part of that tent down. And David's like, "Dee!" I mean, his voice was like rattling. And I said, "It's okay. It's okay." And he goes, "No, it's not." I said, "It's okay, David. It's okay." And then it took off running, you know, but oh my gosh, it was great. I mean, I'm saying it's great because it didn't happen to me, but it was crazy.
But
I was
it was
laughing.
fun. It was fun. When y'all got up that morning and I walked out of the tent, I had taken a picture of myself of what I look like in the morning, and I'm like, geez. So I just felt that weird sensation. As soon as I got out the tent, I looked, to the wood line to the left of us where we heard him walking at. So I seen something by the tree. That's the picture that I sent you, the one with the red face. I saw him. I went, click, 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 click.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was
crazy.
sitting there
I'm
watching
telling you.
us.
And where was this again at? Where was this at?
In Fouke, Arkansas.
The Legend of Foggy Creek.
Yeah.
That's cool right there.
Yeah, I've been there 3 times. I love that place.
Wow.
I mean, I absolutely love it down there. That place is great. And the people are awesome, and they all have stories. Everybody down here. I met Keith, the first time I went down there, and I also met him in Honabi, and a lot of the neighbors down there, they have all kinds of stories. They'll tell you all kinds of stuff. Some of them I think are, tales, but they're hysterical because these people all know that they're there. They've been there forever. They're no longer afraid to share their stories. They'll tell you just like it is. And that area that we camped out in, that is a hot spot because, in fact, remember when we heard all those kids starting to make noise and the people starting to scream and hoop and holler back there, and all of a sudden everything went quiet? Well, as soon as those people took off into the woods, here come the sassies right to our camp. I mean, it didn't take them minutes before they went the opposite direction, came right to us. It was just great.
That's great.
Duke. He says, I hate it when you take my tent or boot
It's
my.
great to hear that parts of the country are so open and willing to talk about their experiences and they essentially living peacefully side by side with these beings. You know what I mean? So it's great to know that it's going that direction in some places.
Yeah, it's not all, and like I said, the first time I did interviews, and I tell people all the time, things can change, and it can change in a heartbeat, I mean, it doesn't, and you won't, yeah, but you won't even know what you did to make the change sometimes, and that's when things can kind of turn, or like what happened to us up on the property where something else showed up, I mean, that's the first time we had ever drawn our guns, we never drew our guns out there, and I mean, I was, 40 foot away from a bear, and I had corn on the cob in my hand. So, I mean, I was scared to death. I thought that thing was going to come eat me, but it just turned around. It just turned around and just kept walking off. It didn't care, it was used to people. But what was up there that night that caused Boo to freak out the way he did and run around the camper? And what was screaming, I mean, I don't know what happened, but all I know is the whole sensation of going up there ended. It just all ended. It was no longer peaceful. I didn't trust going up there. I didn't trust my grandkids going up there anymore. So did Boo leave? Did whatever was there was fighting with Boo? Did they win? They take over the territory? I mean, I don't know. It's just a guess.
It's like that old hunter's adage, you go out in the woods, if it don't feel right, leave.
Yeah.
Don't go out that day. I mean, it's been like that for hundreds of years. If it don't feel right, leave. Come back another day. So
Absolutely.
Obviously, so someone's got it right at some point to say that. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
and for it to stick as a rule of thumb for hunters.
Well, yeah, or a fisherman or people
Or
that
anybody.
are knocking down trees. It doesn't matter. When you get that feeling, you need to go by your gut instinct,
Right. And unfortunately, areas like mine, people are just oblivious to their surroundings, period.
Yeah.
I mean, my group is, Lewis, what would you say, 45, 50 feet from the road?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they just sit there and just watch people all day long. And people are just so intent on just what's going on. I mean, I've stood out there in the middle of the field, and if you don't move, they don't see you. You know what I mean? They're just absolutely oblivious to their surroundings.
Do you realize
You know,
how bad that is?
Right? You know what I mean? You're not going to notice that mountain lion until it's on top of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. And I mean, I've seen 3 mountain lions up there. I've seen dozens of bobcats. I've seen dozens of coyotes. And people walk their dogs up there off leash.
Oh yeah. Well,
You
I
know?
walk mine off leash here, but that's why I kind of run through my videos when I'm walking back there, because I know that I found large cat prints back here already, and I just don't. I know Bella would go. She's dumb. She'd go right after it. She thinks she's fearless.
Right.
She'll actually go after it, and it'll give me enough time to take off. But in the meantime, I'll probably lose my dog, and I don't want that to happen. So I kind of rush through the woods until I have my fence up or a perimeter or something where it gives me a little bit more where I know something will actually have to cross it. Now the big cats, they're going to avoid this area like the plague because of the dogs. They don't want to be bothered with them. Bears are going to do the same thing. They're not going to come. Hogs, on the other hand, hogs don't care. The hogs will go where they want. In fact,
Hogs are vicious.
It's not even 50 feet away. If you look on my front of my property, you'll see hogs tearing up. They do that at night when the dogs are right there in their pen. So they don't care. I can't
wait to get some of that bacon. Let me tell you.
Yeah, well, that makes 2 of us.
You don't even need a license to hunt them.
No, I know.
It's
open season.
It's an invasive species. There is no season. You don't need a license, and you can take as many as you want.
Just like in some states, coyotes are the same way.
Right, coyotes are the same way. They're
not here.
Animal.
No,
not here.
Some states.
Not here. But I can tell you, the guys that were here that were actually doing the groundwork before we got here, he was hunting here the very night before we met him. And he said that they had killed 15 hog in our backyard the night before he started doing the bulldozing. Him and his buddies were up there and they got 15.
They have a place over there somewhere that they do a bacon contest or something where you can take your pig or whatever you get a piece of it and take it down here and do it to where you cook it different ways for 3 judges. That they're always there. There's always a judge there, 3 of them. I don't know the name of the place, but I'll look it up and find out. And you can take it over there and put your name on the wall if it's the best or whatever. I think it's pretty cool. They kind of encourage you to do it because of the pig situation, I think.
Yeah. Well, all you gotta do is tell people around here that you're allowing them to come on your property and you got it made once, because now since we moved in, they know that there's a bunch of them. I don't think anybody has bought any of them yet. We're the only people that are here. I know the real estate agent, he put a cabin up there and he's going to rent that cabin out. And I told him, I said, I hope not for deer season, because if they come on my property, they're going to have to deal with me, and that's not smart, so let's not do that. I said, because bullets are expensive, so I don't give any warning shots. Anyway, so there's not very many people here, and our neighbors kept saying this whole area, they grew up hunting. And I told him, I said, you got to let us know, but you're welcome to come back here anytime. And they were like, really? And I said, yeah, go get him, but you better stop by here and drop some off first. I said, don't be leaving any of that garbage out there in my backyard for predators to come, because I don't need that. Do it right. And he said, we give back. He said, we give back. So that made me happy. So I know that he kind of field dresses them. He'll leave the guts out for them, but he takes everything back with him. They'll take the hog back with him. But Martha just said, sis, tell him about the one you saw on the road. Denny thinks that one was actually someone's barnyard pig. We saw a hogzilla on our way to Tallahena last week. We had to drive down to Tallahena, and let me tell you, Denny said, because I looked when I drove by it, of course I was doing like 75 miles an hour, but I flew by it and I said, what the heck was that? And Denny said, that was a hog. And I said, that was hogzilla. I mean, my gosh. And I said, what was that thing? 400 or 500 pounds? He goes, 600, 800, 900 pounds. He said, that was a big hog. But he thinks it was somebody's hog. And I don't think so. I think it was just one of these, because they don't care. They'll cross the roads, in their, with a bunch of them. They don't care. They'll go anywhere.
Yeah. And I've seen pictures of hogzillas, and it's just basically your basic barnyard pig mixed with a hog.
Right.
And that's where they
Right.
get the size, and they do get 700, 800, 900 pounds.
This
You
thing was
know?
huge. It
Yeah,
was
I mean,
huge.
they're 7, 8, 9 feet long. They're 4 or 5 feet tall. I mean, they're massive pigs. You know,
I
and
couldn't tell you how long it was because I drove by so fast because I really didn't get to look at it until I looked in the rearview mirror. You know, because I'm used to driving an ambulance, so I can't drive the speed limit. I mean, it's really hard with this little puddle jumper I have because it doesn't move
Yeah,
like my
time to
truck
look in
did.
the rearview.
Oh, yeah. So I had to look in my rearview mirror to see it, but it was massive from what I saw. And I called it Hogzilla, and Denny said the thing
yeah,
had to be at least 900 pounds. It was
yeah,
huge, eight,
yeah,
900 pounds.
yeah, which is scary from a animal point of view. You know, I mean, a human point of view and stuff, that the hogs are mixing with the natural people's barnyard pigs and creating this giant monsters, because regular hogs are just downright vicious.
Yeah, but they're also rabbits. My goodness, I can't believe how much they oh my gosh, there's so many of them out there.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why I know that Texas does not have, like, you don't need a license to hunt them. They're considered a nuisance animal now, and you can take as many as you want, and you can. I think you can actually get paid by the Texas state of Texas.
Same in Oklahoma.
$25 a head.
Yeah, same in Oklahoma.
Get right.
Yep. Yep.
You know, because they're a danger, they're a nuisance, and they're dangerous. You know.
Absolutely.
So, but
I don't know. Like I said, this whole thing. I mean, I'm getting to the point now where it's so much fun to go out there for me, especially right at twilight. The most fun part for me is when I'm standing out there. I've been standing out there for a couple hours, maybe throwing the ball to the dogs, and all of a sudden I look up and a place that was empty is now filled with a black, blob.
Yeah.
And I get this big smile on my face, and I got to try to control myself so I don't show my teeth. But I start laughing, and I'll throw the ball right to that direction. I'll get Tank's attention. I'll throw right to, and Tank will turn around and do a U-turn. Back the other direction. And I'm like, yes. Yes.
I'm right.
I know what's out there.
I know what's standing there. Yeah. Tank just confirmed it. Yep.
Yep. I was told by one guy here in Oklahoma that he could actually throw, and he said, I'll take you to my house and show you. He said, I could throw a ball out into the woods and they'll throw it back. And I said, what?
Oh, yeah.
He said, yeah. He said, they'll throw it back. I wouldn't throw anything at him, tell you the truth. I mean, not at him.
Man. One area I went to, a small rock came flying out of the bushes at me, and I laughed and I chuckled. I said, you got to be kidding me. I picked up the same rock. I threw it back.
Oh, I wouldn't.
Next thing you know, a big rock the size of a bowling ball came flying out, and I went, all right, we're all good with
you
that.
Win. You win.
You win. Yeah, you win. So that was my rock throwing experience, and I've never
I did the same thing, but I'll never do that again. Yeah, I learned my lesson the same way.
Right.
Typically, are you asking me if I've ever seen eye shine?
Yeah, I think you missed it earlier. I think when you were talking about eye shine.
Okay. Yeah. Oh,
I would like to know what I've been meaning to ask you. What color eye shine have you seen?
Yeah, there you go.
I've seen the amber. I've seen the white. I've seen the yellowish color. I have only seen, and I'll say amber and not red, because the one that Troy growled at, or he made that monkey sound, that really made that Sasquatch mad. And his eyes went from a yellowish color, whitish yellow, to a almost red. And that thing started it was snapping tree limbs, and it was shaking the trees. And I was like, holy smokes. And I wanted out of there because this thing was mad. And he said he was going to make it mad, and he certainly did.
Hey, fair warning.
Yeah, this was something that was really funny. I was watching one of his videos that he did. This was Troy, and he's out there with a group, and they're doing one of their night expeditions. And I got on the live chat, and I said, "Hey, Troy, growl at them." And he's the one that taught me. He's the one that told me don't ever growl at them. So I thought he would just start laughing, right? Well, he didn't laugh. He said, "Oh, Dee wants me to growl." I was like, "What?" So he turns around and he makes that noise, and then something came flying right over their head, and Troy's face went white. And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Within seconds, something came flying over his head, about took his head off. He ducked, and I mean, he was. I said, "I can't believe that you actually did what I asked you to do." I said, "You're the one who told me never to do that."
Oh my God.
You know, I mean, I mean,
That's crazy.
Don't-
that was
listen
how
to
I
people.
discovered my area. You know what I mean? That's how I discovered the people and the ones in my area. As I came around the bush, I got growled at, and I did a flying leap about 8 feet to my left, and just went, "Gotta be kidding me!" Got my phone out and started videotaping. Little did I know that the one that had growled at me moved back in the bushes and stood up and was watching me. And of course, I'm sitting here like this with my phone in front of my face. So, of course, the world goes from this to that, you know, real
Yep.
quick.
Yep.
You know, I had done a growl impression. Little did I know the one that growled at me, that was standing up looking at me, ducked and slowly came back up.
Ooh.
But also, I mean, Bronzini Bigfoot, who I actually just recently saw in the chat, he sent me a screenshot of that same video, the one that was standing in the bushes to my left, watching all of this go down and probably laughing his ass off, you know. And I've been going there ever since. So, you know, I mean,
Wow. Yeah, I don't
didn't
listen to
mean it.
people anymore. I don't listen to
Yeah,
people
you
when
know.
they say, "Hey, do this," or "Hey, do that." I say, "No."
Right, right. You know, I mean, I don't think I offended the one when I did the growl impression. I wasn't growling at him.
Weird.
I was just giving the people, what I heard. You know, I mean, so, but he still ducked. He ducked below the bushes, and he slowly came back up. And I don't think he knew what I was. You know what I mean? Because everyone out there stays on the main trail. They stay on the main service roads, and here comes old SoCal Forest wandering through the bushes, come around, turn. I scared him. He growled
Except
at me,
for
you know.
except for the dog.
You know.
Except for the
So
people with the dogs. The people with the dogs seem to. Dog goes everywhere, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They,
If you bring a dog out there, they'll just. And I'm surprised that the dog went straight to you. If you were.
you know, the dogs have become a big problem lately.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. You know, we've heard before where the dogs, like in Tony, you know, Crow Creek
Right.
cryptid,
Right.
you know, that they'll hurt his dogs and stuff. Well, why is it some dogs they play with and some dogs they destroy? Mine bark like crazy.
I
mean,
think it's just the type. You know, type 1.
yeah,
type
maybe,
2, type
or
3,
attitudinal.
you know?
They're just attitudinal.
Right. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah. I have
You know.
myself have never heard that lion roar. I've heard them grunt. I've heard them growl. I've felt them growl. I hear them whistle.
growl.
I've
Yeah.
heard them chatter like nobody's business. You know, I've heard them imitate animals and birds and other noises, but I've heard them mouth pop and click noise. That click noise just sends me, I don't know. It reminds me of that movie with Mel Gibson, Signs.
Right.
That clicking noise that those things made.
Yeah.
I've heard that in the woods, and that noise just it unsettles me.
bears do that too. They click with their teeth.
Yeah, and those notes, but I've never.
Bigfoots do too. Bigfoots do
But
that.
I've never heard any kind of aggressive noise towards me.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
I've never been roared at or screamed at. I've heard the screams out here, but I had to be really. I don't say anything because I'm not 100% sure that because of where I'm located and the acoustics of this area, you know, where you have some foothills and then some valleys and all the trees. Because of the acoustics, I can't really tell you that it's not a cougar or a fox or. I can't tell you because it's just far enough away for me not to know exactly what the scream is. But I've heard some pretty horrifying screams at night here. And
It sounds like a woman screaming in a horror movie.
no, it sounded like a cross between a scream and a howl.
Oh,
So like a coyote male looking for a female on steroids.
Like,
oh,
What it
okay,
sounded like.
okay.
And it
I,
was
in northern Idaho, I've heard screams off in the distance where it sounds like one of those horror film women screaming. You know, I mean, where the guy's coming after her with a chainsaw or whatever. But
you go back up the U-Haul, back up the U-Haul.
you know, and you know, I'll hear it off in this
Right, all
direction,
in
and then I'll hear a reply off in that direction, and they're probably a mile apart. You know,
yeah.
well, I don't know.
It's huh.
I have a question for you.
What?
What is the scariest thing that you've encountered with Sasquatch?
Well, I would have to say the scariest thing was not knowing whether that night was the scariest time for me, not knowing what was outside, because that noise was almost demonic sounding. It was the creepiest thing I've ever heard in my life. And Denny's right here. Denny's
I'm a
right
firm
here, and he'll
believer
tell you.
I'm a firm believer that daytime is our time, nighttime is their time.
Yeah, well, you know, I've seen these
I went
big
out
guys.
one time and at night, and it was not. The whole vibe was just, I don't belong there. You know.
I don't have a problem going out at night, and I don't think these guys are just nocturnal because I've seen them during the day, you know.
Mhm.
And it could be just the sentries during the day, you know, or maybe, you know, like you call them, the watchers. But I think they are. They're more easily hidden if they're run around at night. They can get more done without people seeing them. Okay, that makes more sense.
Hey,
But
hunt
I
him.
think that they could be, yeah, I think that they can do that during the day because trust me, we've seen deer fly across the road in front of a bunch of cars because you can tell their eyes, they're panting, their mouths are wide open, they're panting like crazy, they're running
They're
from
running
something.
from something.
Yeah.
And whatever's chasing them doesn't cross that freeway during the broad daylight, but all these deers are running. So
Right.
what's chasing them? You know,
Right.
so I don't know. Like I said, I don't have a problem with going out at night, except for, like I said, some of the predators here, because I just don't know my area. I haven't been here long enough. I don't know, just because I saw cat prints and they weren't real fresh. They were pretty fresh, but not real fresh. And then the neighbor telling us that there was a mama bear and her cubs. Well, I'm sure they're not going to stick around long because there's no food right here. People live here. So she was probably just walking through.
Right.
But there are coyotes out here and there are hog and a lot of them. So I'm just not stupid, you know.
Yeah,
It might be
coyotes are the last year worries though. They're skittish little scavengers, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah, and Bella will take them.
The hogs I would worry about.
Yeah, and there's too many of them here. But I think that's, to tell you the truth, I think that was my scariest. That was the scariest thing for me. That actually made my hair stick up on the back of my neck, and I was armed. If you'd have seen me, oh my gosh, I had that gun pointed. I'd have taken something. I'd blown something's head off. You know, if it had walked through that door. Yeah, I was ready, and Denny was behind me, and so was Kevin, and all three of us were armed, and we were ready. We were locked and loaded. We were ready to start just shooting because we had no clue what this thing was.
Time to go to war.
The trailer was moving. The ground was shaking. This thing was screaming like a demon. It was horrifying, and you could hear Boo's footprints behind it, chasing it, and then finally, when this thing started to take off, you could hear Boo chasing after it. I mean, thud, 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 thud. The ground was just rumbling by it running. And then the screams got, you know, more distant, more distant, more distant. And it took us a long time before we calmed down. I mean, a long time. We were afraid to go to sleep. We were afraid that thing was going to come back. You know?
Yeah.
It was horrible. Really horrible. But that's my only...
I mean... I believe the word Sasquatch means protector of the forest, right?
I don't know what Sasquatch actually means. I believe that they're I believe that they're protectors.
In the First Nations language in Canada, Sasquatch is the protectors of the forest. So yeah, they're going to protect the forest. So
Well, their job is to protect their area, protect what they consider they own.
And Boo did exactly that.
Yeah, but I also believe that I think that Boo was also protecting us because that thing came up to our trailer
That's a
and
possibility.
he was having no part of it. And that's another reason I miss him so bad, you know.
Yeah.
I would love to see him again.
All you got to do is go get him, go get the truck, drive up to the property and say, "Hey, Boo, jump in, let's go."
What truck?
Well, when you get a new truck,
Get a trailer, back it up to the woods,
or trailer,
get
or
in.
trailer, or
Well, I was gone. I went out there and what was it? 2 weeks ago, I went out there and I was standing out there on the tree line. And I said, "Boo, if you're anywhere near, if you can hear me," and I said, "you need to come back." I said, "either that or let me know that you're here." I said, "I miss you." I mean, I feel like a complete moron going out there and talking to the woods, but I talk to the woods all the time.
I do too. I do too.
And Janice said the same thing. Someone asked her, and I thought that was great because it's exactly what I did. I go out there, and if I feel them there, I'll say, "I know you're here." Like I told the big guy.
Acknowledge.
I don't.
Acknowledge.
Yeah, I acknowledge that they're there, and I tell them I don't mean them any harm. I always say thank you for everything I take. I tell them I'll replace everything that I've destroyed. I didn't destroy the trees and stuff, but we are going to replace the ones that we do take down.
Right.
If I do happen to field dress a deer out there, I'll make sure that I leave part for them up in a tree someplace, and I'll tell them it's for them.
Yeah.
I always give back. It's just the way it is. It's always been that way.
Yeah. Ventriloquist.
Fit in the skate.
Ventriloquist of the story. That's all right.
Coming up next.
Right.
Yeah. I'm gonna put that one up.
Some of their ventriloquism is absolutely horrible, but I give them an A for effort for sure. Their owl is absolutely horrible. You could definitely tell an 800-pound owl from a real owl.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
Diana, I haven't seen Boo since I came to this property. I wish I could see him. And I hope someday that I can, because I know we're close enough by that if he wanted to, he could come here. But then again, you don't know that he would be allowed on another Sasquatch's area, without permission, or I don't know how they really are. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if he's not allowed to cross a border, an X for them. I don't know any of that. So where I'd like to see him, I wouldn't want him to get in trouble. I wouldn't want him to get hurt.
Dee, it has been an absolutely wonderful time talking to you finally, and I'm glad you finally decided to come on a podcast because it's an absolutely incredible time. And we're going on 2 hours now.
Oh my goodness.
I know. Time flies when you're having fun, right?
I guess so.
We can't wait to see what your new property and your new group has in store for you. Yeah. So definitely going to keep watching your channel and get things done so you can get up.
I'm excited.
Do you guys know?
Yeah, I'm excited.
Get together over there. You know about what time range you guys plan on doing something like that? Like,
say that again. I missed it.
You're talking about having another Bigfoot get together in your area.
I'm going to wait for the weather to calm down a little bit. I mean, this is colder than I'm used to, and it's way too cold to even start a fire out there, and it's been too wet. I don't want anybody, nobody getting sick, especially now, with all this pandemic stuff going on. I don't need anybody getting sick. But I'll wait until the weather breaks, and then I will definitely have one when I know we're not going to have any rain and the ground is solid. I'll go ahead and I'll make it as quick as I can, to give everybody about maybe 4 weeks notice, and that's about it. But I will, because I'll have multiples. There's so much area out here, and it's all untouched. I mean, just untouched. Mm-hmm. We can go back there on
there
ATVs.
2 days.
Yep.
I could be there in 2 days.
And you can ask some of the people that have been on the property that came to the last one. They are not shy. Ramona, if Ramona wasn't up that night, reading her book, she never would have seen the one over Bill's tent. I mean, it was leaning right over and looking in his tent, and she saw it only because that the tent hood was not part of the tent. We just threw a piece of black plastic over it to stop the rain from getting in, and it blew up with the wind, and that's when she was actually able to see it. But he was laying. I don't know if you were sleeping, Bill. Were you sleeping? But that thing was standing there looking into his tent, and Kat and Wayne were there too, and they said that they knew it was right behind theirs, which they were right next to Bill's. So, and we didn't know this until the next morning. We didn't find this out till the next morning.
Yeah,
So
definitely keep us posted on when you plan on doing this. Even
I will.
If I can get out there, I'm all about it. I am all about it.
Well, like I said, I'm going to get started up here as soon as Wednesday is when they're going to do the loft. Then I'm not going to wait for the loft to get finished before I start doing my live chats. It just can't be, 20 degrees outside because I'll freeze to death.
You just need that regular size window put in.
Right. And then I'll start doing my live chats and we'll see what happens. And if the activity gets, is really, really good, the first break in the weather, I'll have one. And then I'll probably have one again before winter, before winter gets there.
Wonderful.
I'll keep you posted.
This new property is going to be absolutely amazing. And it's going to...
It already is. It already is.
It's going to provide a lot of opportunities that other properties wouldn't have offered. So...
Yeah, if they're showing themselves already, I don't think I'm going to have a problem. I think that my night live chat people are going to start seeing a whole bunch more than we saw even on the property in Arkansas.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for being here. I appreciate everybody that came on to support. And thank you for inviting me, guys. I don't know why, but I appreciate you big time. There's people out there that have a lot more experience than me.
Yeah, but you know what? You got a story to tell just like everybody else. You've got experience. You've got a mindset. You've been through it. So
that's right. You lived there.
You lived there. You experienced it.
Man.
Yeah.
That's right there.
Yeah.
But
so
I have a saying, you don't need to go way out in the woods to find them. They're literally in your backyard.
So you can add a piece of the puzzle to everybody's story and connect it together.
Yep.
Yeah, hopefully as many of these as I listen to, maybe someone could come up with something that because I like listening to them so I can learn. There may be something that you guys are going through or learning that's changed that maybe I'll come up across at a later date and I'll be able to connect it to and say, hey, I remember so-and-so saying this, and maybe try something else. That's why I love these channels and people talking.
That's the whole point of this podcast is, we've all had our experiences. We've all had our, encounters and stuff. And we like to hear that. And we like to bring people together, I may have had a same encounter as somebody else in the chat. You know what I mean? You may have an encounter next week where one of us have had. We all learn from each other. And we need to come together as a group to learn from each other and not just beat each other up and say, oh, well, you think you're better than this person. No, we're all together as one big giant team. That's how we're going to.
That's how you.
Yeah. Remember in the beginning, I told you I've been told off by a couple of people thinking that I'm acting like know-it-all. And I said, oh my gosh, I'm the first person to tell you I know nothing. These guys can change.
And I'll tell you what, those people can. My personal opinion. Well, I didn't put the finger up.
You're a good boy.
You know something? You know something? There is no experts in what we're doing.
No.
The knowledge that we have are the experiences and interactions that we've been through. Yeah. Right. And that's how you put it together as one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As one big collective group.
Yeah, because what are we learning? What are we learning if we can't learn from each other?
We're learning from each other. That's how this is going to work.
Yeah. Maybe it'll calm some people down to where they're not as nervous. Careful but not as nervous, because this subject throws people into PTSD like nobody's business. Maybe by being able to get on chats and talk about it, they can calm down a little bit. Look what it's done for Carrie.
Right.
You know, Carrie's a completely different person when we first saw him on Bigfoot Odyssey in the beginning. Remember that? His first one? That boy was a wreck.
Yeah.
But he's calm
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Yeah. He has no
All right,
problem
well-
talking about it now. So,
Well, again, thank you
thank
very
you.
much for calling me.
thank you, Lady in the Woods.
Thank
Love
you.
you.
Thank
love
you,
you guys,
everybody
too.
in the chat.
Thank you
Yeah,
guys, too.
blessings.
God bless you guys. Yep.
And we look forward to seeing what your new property has in store for you for sure. And keep us
I'll be
posted.
around. I'll be
Yeah.
around.
You have somebody coming next week?
Who, me?
I do. I do.
Kevin.
I do. Actually, I think he's in the chat. Typical
Okay.
watch.
Oh, D fell off the. Bye, D.
Yeah, she took off. She just jumped out.
Yeah, jumped out.
Typical watch is going to come on. It's
Typical
going to be a little bit different of a show, and I will explain that at the beginning of that show before we bring him on.
Who?
Typical watch.
Oh, okay.
So I'm sure he's listening. I've been in contact with him today, and it's going to be. This is going to be a long-term project. Typical watch is going to be a long-term project. So, and I will explain that next week.
Right.
Yep. All right. Cool.
Everybody,
I'll post the
thank you all for coming. Yeah.
video thing on there, so
Yep.
they'll be ready. And we may have a surprise because our year anniversary is coming up,
Oh wow, that's already.
and second week of March. So
Hey,
I've been texting somebody, and I may have this person on here on that day. So you guys are surprised.
all right. Oh, I'm
I'm not telling anybody, not even you guys.
yeah.
Nobody.
All
knows.
right. All right. Is this going to be
Because it may. I don't know yet. I've been texting. They've been texting back. So we're trying to work it out. So
okay?
maybe on
All
Sunday,
right.
not be on Sunday, maybe on a different day, because depending on that person's schedule, because they're so busy.
I know who
Okay.
it is. It's the Sasquatch from Jack Links.
I'm bringing Mercy without Kevin knowing.
Wow. Wow.
Don't forget the apples, right?
Yeah.
What color apples she likes?
They
red.
only like red apples.
Okay.
Red apples, yeah. They don't eat the green apples for some reason. They won't touch it. They love pears. The pears disappear.
Yeah.
So
Oh, what's the difference in the apples and the pears? I don't get that.
They must not like the taste because they're a little bitter. The green
it's
ones.
the taste. It is yeah.
I don't like the green apples.
Yeah,
And
it's the taste.
It's covered in caramel. Then I like it.
Yeah,
That sounds
'cause
about good.
Yeah, that
Car-
sounds. Yeah.
caramel covers up the tangy, you know. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not much on the green ones either. I like the red ones.
Boss is in the house.
well, she's always watching, you know.
Boss is here.
So no worries.
All right.
All right.
All right,
Well, good night,
Thank you
everybody.
for coming. Yep. Happy hunting, and may the Squatch be with y'all.
Grease, Sasquatch, grease.
That's right.
Bye.
Bye, Ray. See y'all.